At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
President Bola Tinubu has conferred the National Honor Officer of the Order of the Niger on Super Falcons players who won Nigeria's 10th title of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament in Morocco. Tinubu, who hosted the players at the presidential villa, also announced a cash award of a Naira equivalent of $100,000 to each of the 24 players, an equivalent of $50,000 to the 11-man technical crew. Tinubu said his administration would continue to encourage the team, which he said has inspired millions, especially young girls, who now see the proof that their dreams are valid and achievable. Players and officials were also given the sum of 350 million naira by the Nigerian Governors Forum, taking the cash reward to 4.9 billion naira. Nigeria won the WAFCON title for a record-extending 10th time on Saturday after coming back from 2 goals down to beat host Morocco 3-2 in the final at the Rabat Olympic Stadium. The team landed at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja on Monday before proceeding to the reception. Earlier, the captain of the team, Rasheedat Ajibade, expressed gratitude to the president for his unwavering belief in the team. The victorious players and other members of the team were earlier received by the First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, after they landed in Nigeria. The Super Falcons also dominated the tournament's awards, as Captain Rasheedat Ajibade won the Player of the Tournament, Chiamaka Nadozie was named the Best Keeper, while Coach Justin Madugo won the Best Coach award. The thrilling dominance marked the 10th triumph of the Falcons on the continental stage after the previous triumphs in 1998, 2000, 2002, 2004, 2006, 2010, 2014, 2016, and 2018. The federal government has launched a loan fund to support staff of tertiary institutions, to be known as Tertiary Institution Staff Support Fund, designed to enhance the welfare and professional development of academic and non-academic staff in universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. Each academic and non-academic staff member will be eligible to receive up to 10 million naira, capped at 33.3% of their gross annual salary, to be used for transportation, medical support, and micro-enterprise ventures such as poultry farming. A statement by the Director of Press at the Federal Ministry of Education, Folashade Boriowo, said the initiative was unveiled during a high-level stakeholder engagement session held in Abuja. Said the fund is part of the administration's broader effort to reposition tertiary education in the country and ensure that the education workforce is supported to live well, grow professionally, and continue contributing meaningfully to institutional excellence. The program, she said, were implemented in partnership with the Bank of Industry, which would manage the disbursement process to ensure transparency, accountability, and effective delivery, noting that a robust monitoring and evaluation framework have been embedded to track progress and ensure the long-term success of the fund. The Ebonyi State government has initiated an investigation into the recent collapse of a hostel building at Alex Ekweme Federal University, Ndufu-Alike, Ikwo. The Commissioner for Capital City Development, Sunday Inyima, led a delegation to access the site and evaluate compliance with the eviction order issued by the governor. Inyima said the state government has provided temporary accommodation for displaced students within the school premises to ensure their safety. He stressed the importance of adhering to building codes and planning regulations to prevent similar incidents. Governor Francis Nwifuru of Ebonyi State has suspended 87 government aides, including commissioners, senior special assistants, and permanent secretaries, for failing to attend a government function. Affected officials who had to proceed on a 1-month working suspension without salary include 25 commissioners, 14 senior special assistants, 24 special assistants, and 22 permanent secretaries. A statement signed by Monday Uzo, the chief press secretary to the governor, said officials were suspended for failing to attend an important government function. According to the statement, the suspension takes immediate effect, and the suspended officials are barred from signing any official documents during the period. Statement, which instructed the commissioners to hand over to their respective permanent secretaries, maintains that Governor Nwifuru remains firm in ensuring that all government officials uphold the highest standards of conduct and dedication in serving the people of Ebonyi State. Former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has expressed concern over Nigeria's growing debt burden, describing the current borrowing trend as unsustainable and lacking in accountability. Obi was reacting to the recent Senate approval of an additional $21 billion, €2.2 billion and 15 billion yen in external borrowing for the 2025-2026 fiscal cycle, and approval of a 750 billion naira domestic bond issuance and a 65 million euro grant. In a statement on Tuesday via X, Obi noted that Nigeria's public debt, already standing at 149 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2025, in newly approved loans estimated at about 37.2 trillion naira, would raise the total debt to approximately 187 trillion naira. The one that the figure could exceed 200 trillion naira by year end. Obi lamented that the borrowing spree has yielded minimal returns in critical areas such as education, healthcare, security, and infrastructure. The former Anambra governor highlighted a persistent deterioration in human development indices, noting that education is underfunded, healthcare remains inaccessible to millions, and insecurity has worsened, while infrastructure across the country remains in disrepair. A physician, cardiovascular medicine professor and the Anglican Bishop of Enugu Diocese, Right Reverend Professor Samuel Ike, has clarified that sudden cardiac death is a natural and unexpected death caused by heart-related complications, so that this often occurs within 1 hour of the onset of symptoms. Professor Ike gave his explanation during a public lecture organized by the Enugu State Government in collaboration with the College of Medicine, Enugu State University of Science and Technology. Event held at the International Conference Center with the theme Sudden Death, Case Presentation and Post-Event Management emphasized the common warning signs to include chest pain, shortness of breath, and irregular heartbeat. Ike urged the public to take such symptoms seriously and seek immediate medical attention.
Incidents of sudden death in Nigeria. In Southeast, UNTH, some work was done a few years ago. Sudden death constituted 13% of all autopsies. So Prosoroxin is winning. Out of every 100 cases of autopsy, sudden death, 13 of them, if not 14. Now, South, Port Harcourt, sudden death, 2.7%. Male-female ratio, 2:1. Southwest, in Oshogo, sudden death, 4% of deaths, with hypertension responsible for nearly half of them. Then, Akinwusi reported a sudden death accounted for 4% of all adult medical mortality, 4 out of every 100, and 1 out of all adult medical admissions. Further, 2% of all deaths were attributable to sudden cardiac death. And now listen to this. Only 8 of the 29 cases of sudden death reached the hospital alive. 72.4% died before arrival.
Representing Governor Peter Mbah, the State Commissioner for Health, Professor George Ugu, reiterated the administration's strong commitment to healthcare reform. He announced that 260 primary healthcare centers are currently under construction across all political wards in Enugu State.
Governor Peter Ndubisi Mbah has carefully mapped out how to make sure that Enugu stays healthy and better than many other states, and in fact, an example in Africa. He has a holistic approach that is already yielding results. He's not tackling it just from the 4 walls of the hospital. is tackling it even from the development indices and making sure that poverty rate is brought to zero so that people who are alive can live well. His Excellency took time to think about those in the rural area where the ongoing 260 type 2 primary care centers are being put together using WHO standards to ensure that, the causes of sudden death differs. There are some people that ordinary dehydration can lead to their sudden death, and they are still members of the society. We need to open up the horizon like that. Then in the general hospitals, His Excellency is rebuilding and revitalizing most of our general hospitals and putting on equipment that were not there before to ensure that even defibrillators and other basic things that you need to revive someone will be available.
Highlight of the event was a live cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR demonstration led by Dr. Yomi Jaye, Special Advisor to the Governor on Health. Dr. Jaye unveiled the government's plan to take CPR training to the grassroots, covering communities, markets, schools, and all primary healthcare centers across the state.
Primary healthcare all across, they are going to be training them on CPR and then putting effective machinery, AED that I mentioned over time. And we're going to take it to the grassroots in terms of, we teach them in a way that everybody that can hear a word, no, you don't need to even speak English. If you can say English Igbo, you can learn it, right? So that is what His Excellency has done. This lecture is just to tell you again that we are not just doing it amongst ourselves. It's a public lecture. We want it to be for the grassroots, and everyone is able to learn one thing or the other. I can tell you today that nobody here that can say he has not learned something that he can take home.
The event organizers emphasized the importance of raising public awareness on the causes, prevention, and emergency management of sudden death. As part of its efforts to create mental health awareness in the society, a non-governmental organization, Cody Mental Health Academy, brought its campaign to the Raymond Duplessis corporate headquarters of Signature TV at Thinkers Corner, Enugu. Correspondent Christopher Lele was there.
In today's fast-paced, high-pressure world, workers face more than just work challenges. From social pressures to personal struggles, they bear the weight of stress, anxiety, and depression while navigating their career. This growing crisis highlights the urgent need for a workplace mental health awareness campaign to address the emotional and psychological well-being of workers. Speaking at the training, co-founder Cope and Live Mental Health Awareness Foundation, Mrs. Uzoamaka Nwachiku, stressed the need for mental health awareness, especially in workplaces. She said that people must begin to accord priority to their mental health the same way they treat their bodies.
And that is where work comes in. If you work in a toxic environment or live in a noisy environment, it will definitely affect your well-being. Is that not true? If you stay in a noisy place, it affects your well-being. So I want us to go with few things. Concept of mental health, what mental health is and what mental health is not. Because when we come to the workplace, we come with many baggages, coming from the family, coming from our relationships, coming from our children, coming from our spouses. And you now come to your workplace and our guy in charge will expect us to do magic. Of course, you have to be productive. Not be so. They pay you now, you have to be productive. So mental health awareness has been linked to enhanced productivity.
Like every other training, there was a practical session where the staffers were engaged in some tasks.
Okay, please, 5 in one group. Then choose a leader and group name. Leader and group name, please. She has now. If I'm not operating as a team, give her. I don't know your group. Let's give me one more. Somebody has been here. You have been here now. Come up. It's anywhere.
So, right.
FPP.
You're right.
No APC group. PDP. Somebody's laughing.
Another resource person, Ebere Amarizu, took the people through some neurocognitive sessions and the importance of taking care of the brains as the root cause of mental health issue. He also talked about the digital footprint on social media.
To look good and presentable. Good. Now, as you do those things, do you take care of one particular thing called brain? How many people understand the importance of brain? Now we don't have no problem. Hey, now I want to make this or that. You don't see people discuss about how to improve their brain health. So the brain enables you to think out something and come out with problem-solving mechanism measures. That's why it's quite important. That's why you have to enrich it. Eat something that will improve your brain health. Sleep well. Then social media, we are there. And social media makes you don't sleep, you don't rest. It affects you. And all that affects your brain. Brain need to relax. You don't do that.
There were also questions and answers between the facilitators and the participants.
What came to your mind? Who would like to share? Why are they disturbing us in the mental health? Just be sincere. What came to your mind? You are smiling. Tell us now. So no guy have noticed that this thing they enter our brain somehow. We don't normally get. Eh? Okay, so you want to say something?
About sensitization of the
Okay, thank you. I like what he said, and that is another place we are getting it wrong. People focus more on the body, physical fitness. They tell you to exercise, right? They tell you to sleep. Meanwhile, man is what? Body, soul, and spirit.
I want to know who values his work over his brain. Is it possible? So between your brain and your work, whatever thing you may have doing, so which one do you prefer? It's okay. Madam said brain. This one said brain. Okay, now between your brain, how often do you take care of your body the same way you take care of your brain? Who does that? You take care of your body, right? You do your pedicure. Tell us now what you do to your body. Who can tell us what you do to your body? Huh? No, every person. Just tell us. No, every person be talking. Tell us, madam, tell us what you do to your body. Well, we are practical session. I don't want to give you. Yes. Yes. Yes.
The state of physical and mental well-being of every individual impacts greatly on his level of productivity, both at home and in workplaces. This makes awareness campaigns such as this necessity in every work environment for the good of both the employees and the organization. Christopher Lele, reporting for Signature TV.
Up ahead, RISEC unveil revised electoral timetable, fixes new date for local government area poll. Police recover body of murdered Kogi journalist, name colleague as killer. Details of these and more after the break.
With a population of about 36 million people, the Southeast is awash with stories. Every day on Southeast News, we tell the peculiar story of the Southeast and her people.
Our Southeast should be the Silicon Valley of Nigeria.
Their successes, achievements, and daily challenges. Do you have a Southeast story to share? Community achievements and challenges, completed and uncompleted projects, bad roads, water scarcity, erosion, flooding, insecurity, or even disagreements? Bring it on to Southeast News. On Southeast News, no story is too big or too small. Southeast News. Let's tell our story. Showing on Signature TV every weekday at 4 p.m. WAT, 1600 hours GMT.
The chairman of the River State Independent Electoral Commission, Michael Ode, has unveiled the timetable for the forthcoming local government election in the state. Speaking at the event in Port Harcourt, Ode also announced a shift in election date from 9th to 30th of August in all the 23 local government areas of the state. He assured stakeholders, including voters and all participating parties, of a free, fair, credible and inclusive election.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen will recall that the General Stakeholders Meeting was convened by the 6th Commission on Wednesday, 5th March 2025, whereupon Saturday, 9th August 2025 was proclaimed as the date of local government council elections in Rivers State, prior to the advent of emergency. Here now, the 7th Commission of Research, taking proper cognizance of Section 13, sub 5 of the recent law, which provides that when the Commission appoints a date for holding an election, and there is a reason to believe that a serious breach of peace is likely to occur when the election is held on that date, or is it possible to conduct the election as a result of natural disaster or any other emergency? Emphasis on any other emergency. The Commission may postpone the election, provided that the reason for the postponement is cogent and verifiable. Therefore, by the power vested upon the Commission by this provision, I hereby announce a postponement of the local government council election earlier fixed to hold on Saturday, 9th August 2025 for a very obvious and incontrovertible reason.
While a few other political parties, including the All Progressives Congress, welcomed the revised timetable, others expressed their discomfort with the poll, which they describe as illegal and unconstitutional. They called on President Bola Tinubu to suspend the process and reinstate the suspended governor, Fubara, to conduct the planned election to avoid wastage of River State resources, since the outcome of election will be challenged in court.
It is actually this point in time, in a dire need for development and good positive governance. Every other state are doing better. Other states are challenging and in competition with democracy and development. It is only Rivers State that is suffering democratic value. So we call that this local government election should be suspended until the suspended governor has been reinstated to conduct the election so that Rivers State resources will not be abused. We also call on Mr. President to understand that we are not comfortable and we do not accept a non-indigene as the chairman of this state to conduct the government elections for Rivers State.
It's a good thing that we are beginning to talk about democratic processes that should signal the return to full democratic governance in Rivers State. But sadly, from what I observed in the today's engagement, there wasn't enough time for stakeholders to truly engage. And then the chairman left very quickly after he spoke. So, but there needed to be time for stakeholders to express themselves, to ask key questions as regards the election.
According to the revised timetable, the council poll was kicked off on July 28, with a meeting of the stakeholders would end on September 13, with a second runoff for the chairmanship election. Former members of the All Nigeria People's Party have warned President Bola Tinubu that they will dump the All Progressives Congress unless the vice presidential slot remains with their bloc. The aggrieved members will disclose their grievances at a press conference in Abuja, alleged that the group was being marginalized by both the Congress for Progressive Change and ACN blocs and the tripartite agreement that formed the national government in 2015. In a communique read by the national coordinator, Vitalis Ajumbe, members of the bloc operating under the aegis of the Association of Former ANPP members demanded inclusivity in the APC government, insisting that the position of VP remained sacrosanct for the ANPP bloc. Ajumbe alleged that the bloc, after being marginalized under former President Muhammadu Buhari, despite being a major partner in the merger and producing figures such as Vice President Kashim Shettima, Governors Babagana Zulum and Mai Malabuni, and several senators and former governors, has also been excluded from Tinubu's appointments so far. The group vowed to begin state and zonal consultations in the coming weeks to brief members on its next steps. One person was killed following the invasion of displaced hippopotamuses in the Goyuk and Sheleng local government areas of Adamawa State. The chairman of Goyuk local government, Shalom Kasa, said on Monday in the Bin Jiram community that a young man was reportedly killed by one of the animals during the attack. Kasa said hippopotamuses displaced by flooding around the Kiri Dam in Sheleng were now within communities, farmlands and riverbanks, causing fear among residents. In response, Kasa, alongside the chairman of Sheleng local government, Alhaji Abubakar Abba, and traditional rulers including Kwande Durungraya of Kuyuk, Kuruhaye, had visited the seat of government in Yola for help. Kasa also extended his condolences to the victims of recent flooding in Yola town. 5 persons reportedly died and 55 others were hospitalized. Secretary to the state government, Awal Tuku, who received a delegation, assured them that the government would address the situation. In the same vein, President Bola Tinubu has condoled with families of victims and communities affected by the recent severe flooding in Yola, Adamawa State, and a fatal boat accident in Niger State. In a statement, Tinubu praised the efforts of emergency agencies, local divers and volunteers involved in rescue and recovery operations. The president, while acknowledging climate change as a major factor behind the rising floods, urged Nigerians to avoid actions that worsen the crisis through stricter adherence to waterway safety rules, encouraged authorities to intensify public awareness, and ordered NEMA and the National Emergency Response Center to work closely with state governments for immediate relief. Flooding in Yola claimed 5 lives and injured 55 over the weekend, while a boat carrying 39 people capsized near Guni village in Niger State, killing 13, including women and children. Anambra State Police Command has taken delivery of a new armored personnel carrier, APC, to tackle criminals in the state. The armored vehicle was delivered to the command by the force headquarters on instruction of Inspector General of Police Kayode Betokun. Commissioner of Police in Anambra State, Ikioye Orutugo, who received the heavy-duty military equipment, expressed happiness about the gesture, which he said would help the command to tackle criminals in the state. Orutugo expressed appreciation to the leadership of the Nigeria Police Force for the delivery of the equipment. The body of photojournalist Ayo Ayekpeko, allegedly murdered by his colleague Oluwapelumi Adebayo, has been recovered by police in Kogi State. Police spokesperson Williams Ove Aya confirmed the body was found Sunday evening near the WAEC office in Lokoja's Crushing Zone 8 after Adebayo reportedly hid the body in a deep freezer before dumping it in a bush. Investigations revealed Ayekbeko was killed on July 22 in an office near the government house area. Residents discovered the corpse after noticing a foul odor and alerted authorities. Other reports had mistakenly identified a different suspect, Jacob Belumi, a correctional service officer, who was later found dead in a Lokoja hotel, believed to have taken his own life. Police are appealing for information to aid the investigation. Meanwhile, Ayekbeko's family is demanding justice and has called on Governor Ahmed Ododo and security agencies to ensure those responsible are brought to book. The Delta State Police Command has arrested a suspected self-kidnapper and accomplice after they collected 3 million naira ransom in the state. Police Regulations Officer for the Delta State Command, Bright Edafe, disclosed this in Asaba, the state capital. Edafe said the command had continued to record operational milestones in its relentless war against crime and criminality in the state. According to Edafe, the suspect confessed that she faked a kidnap and received a ransom of 3 million naira, out of which she gave her accomplices 500,000 naira, while retaining 2.5 million naira for herself. Said all the suspects involved in the fake kidnapping had been arrested while an investigation was ongoing. Next is business and stock market news.
Central Securities Clearance System CSCS PLC has launched its custodian portal, a user-centric digital solution designed to optimize custodian operations through intuitive, secure, and efficient features. Managing Director CSCS PLC Haruna Jallo Wazari said the custodian portal offers a streamlined experience for market participants with powerful tools that facilitate comprehensive portfolio and trade management, document tracking, share transfer operations, client symbol search, and real-time access to vital data. He said the portal, operating through a flexible subscription-based model, empowered users to manage their records effortlessly and securely through convenient payment channels such as GTPay and Paystack. All custodians in the Nigerian capital market have now been successfully onboarded on the custodian portal, marking a significant milestone in CSCS's ongoing drive to enhance collaboration, standardize operational processes, and promote digital adoption across the market. The federal government says it aims to create over 2 million jobs through its Renewed Hope social housing program, which will deliver 100 housing units in each of Nigeria's 774 local government areas. Housing Minister Ahmed Dangiwa disclosed this during a session with the House Committee on Housing and Habitat, explaining that the initiative targets low-income earners, the unemployed, and displaced persons. He said funding would come from the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Development Fund, with further details to follow pending presidential approval. Dangiwa also noted that several ongoing housing projects under the Renewed Hope cities and estates are nearing completion. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has urged the new leadership of the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation to uphold its mandate in safeguarding financial stability. Speaking at the official inauguration of NDIC Managing Director Thompson Sunday and Executive Director Operations Dr. Kabir Katata in Abuja, Edun called on the team to leverage their experience in steering the institution through Nigeria's broader economic reform. The appointments, confirmed by the Senate in May, following President Bola Tinubu's nomination, mark a new chapter for the agency, which plays a critical role in the financial safety net. In response, Sunday, who takes over from acting MD Emily Osiju, thanked the president for the opportunity and pledged to deliver on the corporation's statutory functions. He also assured staff of a collaborative leadership approach aimed at advancing NDIC's performance and policy objectives. Aliko Dangote has called on President Bola Tinubu to include refined petroleum products under the government's Nigeria First import restriction policy, a move quickly rejected by oil marketers and analysts. Speaking at the Global Commodity Insights Conference in Abuja, the Dangote Group president said local refiners are being undercut by cheap, often subsidized imports, including toxic fuel that wouldn't meet European standards. He warned that continued fuel importation is crippling domestic refining and discouraging investment. The Nigeria First policy, which already bars government agencies from procuring goods available locally, should be extended to petrol, diesel, and relatable products, Dangote insisted. He urged that it's not about monopolizing the sector, but protecting local industry as practiced in the US, Canada, and EU. However, many marketers disagreed, warning that banning imports without adequate supply safeguards could worsen the fuel supply situation. And that's business news on Global News. I am Thompson Natus.
Still to come, North Korea says Trump must accept new nuclear reality. Wildfire rages in Portugal's Aroca region. Do stay with us.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
China will maintain close communication with Cambodia and Thailand to help consolidate the consensus over a ceasefire between the two Southeast Asian nations, the Foreign Ministry said on Tuesday. Ministry spokesperson Goh Jia-kum made the remarks when asked to comment on Thailand's military, saying that Cambodia violated a ceasefire that had come into effect from midnight.
Over recent days, the international community, especially Malaysia, the current ASEAN chair, has actively mediated and urged the leaders of Cambodia and Thailand toward de-escalating the situation. China appreciates and welcomes this. China supports Malaysia in continuing to play its role as the ASEAN chair and promoting a political solution within the ASEAN framework. We support all efforts that enhance mutual trust and promote reconciliation. As a friend and close neighbor of Cambodia and Thailand, China will maintain close communication with all parties involved, including Cambodia and Thailand, and continue to work in its own way, in accordance with the wishes of both sides, to play a constructive role in consolidating the ceasefire agreement.
Military commanders from Thailand and Cambodia held talks on Tuesday as calm returned to the disputed border and displaced residents began trickling back, a day after the Southeast Asian neighbors announced a truce to end 5 days of fighting. Thai and Cambodian leaders met in Malaysia on Monday and agreed to a ceasefire deal to halt the deadliest conflict in more than a decade that has killed at least 40 people, mostly civilians, and displaced over 300,000 in both countries. Russian Minister for Resources and Ecology Alexander Kozlov met with North Korean officials after landing on the first direct passenger flight from Moscow to Pyongyang, a North State media reported on Tuesday. In a footage provided by North Korea's official news agency KCNA, Kozlov was seen being greeted by North Korean officials at Pyongyang International Airport and meeting with North Korean Premier Park Tae-sung on Monday. The start of regular flights between the capitals for the first time since the mid-1990s, according to Russian aviation blogs, follows the resumption of Moscow-Pyongyang passenger rail service, a 10-day journey in June. Russia's Civil Aviation Authority, Rosaviasia, granted Northwind Airlines permission to operate flights between Moscow and Pyongyang twice a week. The Transport Ministry said in a statement that for now, flights would operate once a month to help build stable demand. South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyung said on Tuesday that he would hold his first meeting with his Japanese counterpart Takeshi Iwaya in Tokyo since taking up his post this month, before traveling to the U.S. to support trade negotiations. Cho would have his first meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Thursday, as Seoul makes a final push to secure a trade deal to limit the impact of punishing U.S. tariffs due to come in on August 1. As for his Japan visit, Cho said it would discuss important bilateral issues, including historical disputes, in a future-oriented way, and agree to cooperate going forward. South Korean Finance Minister Ko Young-chol said on Tuesday they were trying to derive a mutually beneficial trade agreement with the United States in comments ahead of its departure to Washington to meet U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Seoul officials are scrambling in an all-out push to clinch a trade deal ahead of a Friday deadline to avert punishing tariffs threatened by U.S. President Donald Trump against the country's key industrial exports to the United States. Cole's plan to travel to Washington last week for talks with Bessent was postponed due to the U.S. Treasury chief's scheduling conflict. Cole also said he would be joining Industry Minister Kim Yuan-kwan and Minister for Trade Johan Ko, who will be holding talks with U.S. officials, including Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, on an all-out response. North Korea said on Tuesday the United States must accept that reality has changed since the country's summit meetings in the past, and no future dialogue would end its nuclear program, state media KCNA reported. Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, was believed to speak for her brother, said she considered that the personal relationship between Kim and U.S. President Donald Trump is not bad. Asked about the North Korean statement, White House officials said Trump was still committed to the goal he had for the 3 summit meetings he held with Kim in his first term. At a first meeting in Singapore in 2018, Trump and Kim signed an agreement in principle to make the Korean Peninsula free of nuclear weapons. Subsequent summit in Hanoi broke down due to a disagreement over removing international sanctions that had been imposed against Pyongyang. U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick said President Trump was in the driver's seat on tariff policy during an interview with Fox News Channel's special report that aired on Monday. Trump said on Monday most trading partners that do not negotiate separate trade deals will soon face tariffs of 15% to 20% on their exports to the United States, well above the broad 10% tariff imposed in April. Trump was vowed to end decades of U.S. trade deficits by imposing tariffs on nearly all trading partners, has already announced higher rates of up to 50% in some countries, including Brazil, starting on Friday. Announcements have spawned feverish negotiations by a host of countries seeking lower tariff rates, including India, Pakistan, Canada, and Thailand, among others. The U.S. President on Sunday clinched a huge trade deal with the European Union that includes a 15% tariff on most EU goods, $600 billion of investment in the U.S. by European firms, and $750 billion in energy purchases over the next 3 years. That followed a $550 billion deal with Japan last week and smaller agreements with Britain, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Other talks are ongoing, including with India, but prospects are deemed for many more agreements before Friday, Trump's deadline for deals before higher rates take effect. The German economy will suffer considerable damage as a result of these tariffs, Merz said on Monday in Berlin. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz expects the new trade agreement between the EU and the US to have serious consequences for the German economy. Merz described the agreed 15% tariff on exports to the US as a considerable burden, adding that it was not satisfied with the outcome reached in Scotland over the weekend. However, given the difficult starting position, it was obviously not possible to achieve a better deal, he said. Merz also expressed his belief that the tariff would harm the US too, by fueling inflation and having an overall negative impact on transatlantic trade.
I perceive the reactions from the German business community to be somewhat more nuanced. Some companies and industries are relieved that things will not remain as they were before. The tariffs that have been imposed to date are in some cases twice as high as those agreed yesterday in Scotland. But I am fully aware that the tariffs that remain in place, in particular the 15% tariff on exports from the EU, compared to the 0% tariff on US imports into the European Union, represent a considerable burden on the export-oriented economy of the Federal Republic of Germany. That is perfectly clear. I am not satisfied with this outcome in the sense that the deal, is satisfactory, but I am simply saying that, given the starting position we had with the United States of America, it was obviously not possible to achieve more. In plain language, this means that the German economy will suffer considerable damage as a result of these tariffs. But I am quite sure that it will not be limited to Germany and Europe alone. We will also see the consequences of this trade policy in America. Not only will there be a higher inflation rate, but it will also have an overall negative impact on transatlantic trade. I am firmly convinced that these tariffs are not in the interests of the United States of America.
Young people from all over the world gathered on Tuesday in St. Peter's Square to see the Basilica pass through the Holy Door and mark the start of a Jubilee of Youth, a global Catholic celebration at the Vatican where over 500,000 young Catholics from 146 countries are expected to attend, serves as a spiritual launch of a week-long program. Pilgrims express their joy at being the event, saying it brings hope and joy.
Happy is not strong enough of a word. I think there's hope. There's joy. There is inspiration of the Holy Spirit. I think it's overwhelming. I think people are going to be processing all of this for months to years after it, because this is a beautiful moment of hope being planted, and it's just something that's going to take root and spread.
Very happy, very excited to be here with all these pilgrims. Very excited to see Pope Leo and to grow in my faith as we come here on pilgrimage.
Exciting. We're all here exciting. Yeah, we're just excited just to be here. It's a huge blessing from God that we get to be here with not just like people from our same nationality, from different nationalities. Like it shows that like the youth are the next generation. We are the next generation, the new hope for Christianity, for Catholicism. And it's such a blessing, and it's such an amazing time to be a young person in the Jubilee.
This is, for me, it's like a heaven. It's something special for me to be here. It's very, very, I don't know how to say this feeling, how to describe him, because it's something special. It's a very beautiful place.
In the days leading up to the main events, pilgrims will take part in prayer services, confession, and processions through the holy doors of the city's 4 papal basilicas. Events will take place from July 29 to August 3 and include 2 key moments with Pope Leo XIV's leading evening vigil on Saturday and a morning mass on Sunday. A wildfire raged near the village of Canelas in Portugal's Aroca region on Tuesday. 500 Portuguese firefighters were battling the fire that started on Monday. It's desperation to watch this disgrace, said local resident Rafael Soares, who hoped for air support to help contain the flames, as temperatures were expected to reach 33 degrees Celsius during the day.
It's desperation to watch this disgrace. We had the same situation on the 17th of September in Alvarenga, nearby municipality, and now we have this scenario here in Canelas, and I don't know how we can sort this out. We need help, we need air support. The life in the rural world changed a lot. Climate change doesn't help either, with these temperatures. And maybe some psycho caused the fire, because it's impossible otherwise. These are not natural fires, this has to be caused by a human.
September 2024, more than 6,000 hectares were destroyed by a wildfire at a nearby village of Alvarenga, also in the Aroca region. That's the news this hour. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Barry Kumon Ado.